Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to do a playthrough of V Rising, where I'm actually editing the footage and doing a voiceover. So this won't be like a raw stream VOD with live commentary. I'm going to talk about what I did after I've done it. But before we continue, I'll introduce myself. I'm Savalian. I make videos about games, development, and creativity. And if you do want to see full raw gameplay of the games that I play, I do also stream on Twitch. But this V Rising run is a little fun solo run that I've been doing in my free time. So this one was never on Twitch. This one's a little bit of a secret. And as I set up my settings here and get my world started, I'm going to talk about my experience with V Rising up to this point. I started playing shortly after 1.0. I had never played before, but another streamer that I'm loosely sort of connected to ran a community server. I played on there with my partner, but because I started a little late, all the people on the server had been playing for like a week or two, and they were all almost done with the game. So I ended up running through the game just at light speed, carried by people who are stronger, frantically grinding the gear I needed and getting my upgrades. And it got to the point where I fought Dracula and won with some borrowed gear after just 3 days with our little group. And then because I was so hooked on the game, but I didn't really get to experience it in that first run because we were going so fast, I convinced my partner to set up a server for our communities. We played a fresh run, we did it at a much slower pace, and this was really good. That server was set at slightly higher damage, but still on normal difficulty. And so it was a little bit more challenging, but it didn't have the extra movesets and stuff. And I think that run we did about 2 weeks, and then we did get Dracula down in that one as well with our group that we were playing with. And then I wanted more. Everyone else is burned out on V Rising, and I am still fully addicted. Even as I do my brutal run, I'm thinking about another run I could do, like another challenge sort of thing. But this run is just me hanging out in the evenings, recording all my progress, and we are on brutal because I want to try and get the achievements. So let's get into the settings for this world. I tweaked a lot of little things just to make it less grindy. So like I turned up the loot and the materials and the servant hunts just a little bit. I turned durability off because I think it's stupid. I don't think games should make you repair your gear all the dang time. Especially if you know you're going to be dying a lot. Like me, playing on a harder difficulty, I just don't want to grind out materials to repair my gear. I think that's silly and a waste of time. I turned up crafting speed, gave myself all the castles I can have with more space just in case I want to do some building. And then for the actual difficulty, I started the game on default brutal settings, which is plus 70% damage for V-Blood units, plus 3 gear level for V-Blood units, and also they have 50% more health. And after a couple of bosses, I realized it was just too hard. I wanted it to be a challenge, but I didn't want to just spend hours and hours fighting the same boss. And even with the settings I eventually landed on, I still did have to do that for a couple bosses, and that's okay. I got pretty ragey, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So I started on the default. I got through most of Act 1. And then I realized it was just not the experience I wanted, so I turned it so that V-Blood units do plus 25% damage, they're plus 1 gear level, and they just have the normal amount of health, so that hopefully the fights won't run on too long, is my thinking on that one. And this feels really good for me, honestly. It feels like I need to know the fight, I need to be strategic about what I'm doing, I need to have decent gear, but it's doable, and that's really what I wanted. So here we go, the beginning of the game. After all of my V Rising runs, I'm pretty familiar with the opening sequence. If anyone doesn't know about what V Rising even is, you play as a vampire, and the lore is kind of that You've been in hiding, you've been sort of hibernating for a long time. The humans rose up and struck the vampires down, and now you're taking your second chance at like dominating the human civilizations, but you got to build yourself up first. So you learn how to collect loot, you learn how to build things, you learn how to craft things. I will also mention, because this run was done in my free time, I did not record game audio because I was like watching YouTube and stuff while playing. I should probably learn how to record a specific audio stream, but I don't, so I'll add in some nice background music, sorry. And at the beginning, I know that getting gear is sort of the most important part of V Rising. Like, your gear determines how much damage you can withstand, how much damage you can do. And so we want to get the crafting stations up as soon as possible, and you need some place to build to do that. So I picked basically the first plot I found that I felt like was a decent size. You can relocate your castles, and I'll do this later, so you don't need to be married to your first plot. So I just picked one at random, basically, that looked okay. There was, unfortunately, a man trap squatting on my new land, and it did kill me twice. It does seem like a lot of the beginner plots have some really mean enemies on them. Once I got my stuff placed down, I noticed that there's also a treant and a corpse pile on my front lawn. Sometimes they would kill each other, but they were both too scary for me to even mess with at this point. After my third attempt, I got the man trap down and placed my base pieces as quickly as possible to protect me. I needed some walls. I am just a little guy. So I got my floor, the palisades, I don't really know this word. Sawmill, workbench, just a really messy first base, squeezing everything in wherever it will fit. Once I got the best weapons I could make at this point, I was able to get some better materials. So I ran out to find some copper and get some more stone. I had picked up a lot of bones in the initial cemetery, some stone. I killed every wolf I could see on my way in, all the deer for their hides, and also the blood essence. So I was trying to prepare as early as possible to get this off to a good start. Sometimes my new neighbors got a little rowdy. Once I got a furnace up, I could start smelting the copper and build some storage chests, start organizing things. I know that the first boss is pretty easy, but I want to try and get my first set of gear before I start going on longer missions. So I went out and I tried to get some more hide and some more copper, just a little bit of grinding, and I wanted to see if I could get some leather before unlocking the tannery, which the humans can drop leather. They're a little bit more rare, and it depends on where you're at in the world. So I made my full copper set, sword, axes, a hammer, started venturing out to the little villages. I pilfered the copper mine, filled my pockets, and I also took the long way through the back entrance to my house going home because I was too scared of the corpse pile to go in the front door. So this was kind of a slow process here. At least until I get wolf form, I'm not really confident I can get past it safely with walking speed. So we did a lot of running around for this first bit. I did not end up finding any leather on my first run out, but I did get some coarse thread, which I definitely need later. And I was getting impatient. I was getting too impatient to try and get the leather, which was my original plan. And so I just went for it. The White Wolf is the first boss. Well, I think he's called the Alpha Wolf or something. Does he have a name? I have no idea. I can't remember. We'll see it on the screen if he has a name. I know he's supposed to be easy because you don't have like any moves at this point, but I had never soloed any bosses in V Rising, certainly not on Brutal, so I didn't really know what to expect. In the end, he was not too bad. I think it's kind of necessary to make the first boss a little bit easy to avoid putting people off of a game that they've just started playing, because like you've got no moves, you have no jewels, like you have a very limited selection of weapons, no weapon skills. So like if they made the Alpha Wolf really tricky, I think it would just make people kind of rage quit really early on. But he does a big lunge that you can dodge, he summons some wolf ads. It's just a matter of identifying when he's doing a move, getting out of the way, and getting hits in where you can. And that was my first solo Brutal V Rising boss defeated. Hooray! We did it. We've got a long way to go. Next I did a bit of exploring, raided some human camps for materials. I do this pretty often and it's quite boring, so I'll probably clip a lot of this out for the sake of brevity. But if you're running a solo V Rising run, I would recommend stockpiling some of the human materials as you go, because some of them you can make later, but it takes time and resources to do it. So if you want to avoid like a big grind fest, stock up on thread, cloth, paper, all the little goodies that they've got that you don't unlock until later in the game. I wanted to get the other teleporters unlocked so I could get around faster and also see if I could get enough leather to get some gear made. So I ventured out across the map as I was doing my little grind sessions. I got enough for half a gear set and made those, but I'm still in the phase of the game where I'm collecting a lot of loot and I don't really have anything I can do with it yet. So I would recommend building a lot of storage chests, making sure they are organized so that when you come back with a big haul of loot, you can just like doot doot doot, use the auto sort to fill all your chests, and then you can get back to the good stuff. Feeling emboldened by my new shirt and pants, I went after Keely the Frost Archer. Here's my first attempt, which for some reason I decided to start in the middle of the day. Mistake number 1. Watching the footage back, I see my second big mistake is that I was not using the surrounding buildings for cover when I pretty easily could have. I started to figure this out kind of partway through the fight, and I've definitely learned with other bosses that, you know, when they do these long range like bullet attacks, it's a good idea to use what's around you. Some of the environment can be destroyed, but a lot of it is permanent, and you can rely on it to protect you from things like this. So first attempt I was killed, and upon meeting this crushing failure, I immediately quit the game and the run ends here. Just kidding. On my way back I found a 93% rogue, so I feasted. You don't get servants or prisons for a little bit, so just whenever I see a 90% I just grab it, gobble it up. Playing solo is really nice because you don't have to share anything. You can just do whatever you want. The world is your oyster. During my second attempt, I tried to use the area to my advantage a little bit more. I also had to kill 100% warrior because he got involved in the fight, and that made me very sad. I had a really close call on this one in the middle of the fight, just not paying attention to the big ice nova. And then I was actually killed at exactly the same time as when I killed Keely. Luckily, I was not too far away, the respawn timer is not too long, so I was able to run back and get my V blood. So that is boss 2 complete. And at this point I had been playing for about 2 hours, so that's 2 V-Bloods in 2 hours. We'll see if we could speed this up a little bit. I looted the area again and went back home. And Keely unlocks leather, tannery, and some leather gear. So I had gathered a bunch of hides, so I just plopped those in, got them churning out so I could make my second 2 pieces of gear, a bag, and a cape. I did some more exploring. I looked up the waypoint teleporter locations because I couldn't quite remember where they were, and I set out to get myself some more of the map uncovered. You do need the map uncovered pretty good by the time you have servants, so you can send them out on hunts. You have to like see the area that you're sending them to before you can do it. Watch out for Belmont and some of the other wandering bosses. They are mean. I'm not actually sure if Belmont comes down this far, but he's definitely in Dunley Farms. And then there's a couple of other guys that wander around down here. I wasn't sure if the merchants would get mad at me for being a vampire, so I tested the waters, and they were cool with it. So now I know I can come back here with some copper coins later. With the waypoint on the left side of the map unlocked, I teleported back home and did a little bit of expansion on my base. Things were just getting a little bit cramped. And you don't get castle walls until a little bit later. So until then, we're just out here in the elements, no roof, some ramshackle walls. And now that I've got sort of a foothold and a little base, I realized I had a lot of workstations left to build that I just hadn't gotten around to yet. I put down a blood press. I can technically build the rat sewer thing. I can never remember the actual name of it, but I didn't really need one yet, and they're pretty big, so I left that one out. And next on the list of bosses to take down is either Errol the Stonebreaker or Rufus the Foreman. I looked at which one would give me the most useful unlocks, and I decided I wanted to go after Rufus. I can never remember where a lot of these low-level bosses hang out, so I relied a lot on the combination of the blood tracking and just wandering around. I found Rufus where he lives, in this lumber mill. I did my best to clear it out so I wouldn't have to worry about ads once the fight got started, and then I got to work. I'll talk a little bit about my weapons and skills as I go through this run because I learned a lot in this playthrough about the different weapons and different fighting styles during my multiplayer runs because I had other people to sort of lean on and to take aggro sometimes. It was really easy to just pick a weapon and main that weapon and never change your strategy at all ever. But when you're playing solo, you have to adapt. Like, some of the weapons just don't really work well on the bosses. You know, sometimes you need to get in close, sometimes you need to be farther away. And so I started off thinking I was mainly going to use axes or hammers, and then by the end of Act 1 I was routinely changing weapons and spells based on what I have available and what the boss needs. Rufus did kill me on my first attempt, but I got really close. And another thing I didn't really use before this run are my shield moves. I simply never had to. Multiplayer is a lot easier even when the damage is boosted because the boss is not solely focused on you, so you get a little bit of leeway. You can dodge sort of every other boss attack sometimes, depending on which boss it is, because they don't just attack one person the whole time. So for my solo run, learning to use the defensive moves was a necessary step, and I think I've gotten pretty good at it at this point. My second attempt went much more smoothly. I was more familiar with his moves, so I dodged them better, and I remembered that he does an annoying little dodge sometimes after jumping, and I tried to account for that. He also has 2 or 3 full seconds when he whistles for his buddies, where he does absolutely nothing, and so you can use that to just really wail on him. With Rufus down, that's the first 3 bosses down, which will advance our main quest to unlock research. I love research in this game. It can get a little bit annoying late game because you just need so much paper, but it's really fun for me to find the little books, unlock things, do the random paper unlocks. I don't know, I just think it's a fun way to add in some of the gear and some of the other, like the furniture and stuff, without tying it to like a specific boss or a specific action that you have to do. Since I was kind of in the middle of the map, I decided to go and find yet another waypoint, get that unlocked, explore a little bit, and when I got back home, I did not have enough room at my base to put down the woodworking table, so I tacked on a few more floors for another expansion, and then I progressed my main quest by adding a research desk, and then using some leather and some copper to upgrade my castle heart to level 2. We did it! That finally got me castle walls and castle floors so I could build a real house. I knew that this was coming. I had been refining stone as I got it this whole time, but I still didn't have quite enough stone bricks, so I alternated between mining stone, making bricks, and building those walls. And remember, you can build multiple grinders, multiple sawmills if you want things to go a bit faster. I built 2 and it was still like just a tiny bit slow, but it was manageable. If you want to just get the quest done and move on, you can just build like a tiny little room, but I'm not really in a rush here, so I took my time to wall out the whole space properly. And next, it's waygate time, my favorite. I made a little enclosed room for my waygate, just to be fancy, but this did mean that I had to mine more stone and make some more bricks. Then I realized I needed some grave dust to actually build the waypoint, and you can't grind bones until a later boss, so this meant going out to the local cemetery and stealing their grave dust. The local cemetery didn't have enough, so I went to the one on the other side of town. And Goreswine was hanging out in there. I wasn't really ready to take on Goreswine. I started running away, and then when the skeletons left, I thought maybe I can do this. Maybe I can just beat Goreswine right now. How hard could it be? Nope, they killed me almost instantly. Luckily, I had enough grave dust from my work that I didn't need to keep searching, so I headed back home and built my big, beautiful waygate. I went out to do some more grinding after that, attacking the nearby bandit camps, and I don't really remember what I was looking for, if anything. I did a lot of my V-Rising for this run late at night, so it's entirely possible I was just like wandering, farming paper, something like that. Maybe I should have taken some notes. YOLO. Next, I built a stone coffin, and then it was time to build a servant coffin. They need the greater blood essence, which at this point in the game, you can only get by putting unsullied hearts into the blood press, which drop much less frequently than the sullied hearts or whatever, the tainted hearts. I can't remember the name for them. Luckily I had just enough, and in fact maybe this was what I was grinding for. Maybe I checked that. I don't remember. Once I build the servant coffin, we unlock the Pokemon part of V-Rising, Dominate form. With this you can capture humans like they are Pokemon and make them live in your house. I figured I would wait for a decent servant to come along, so instead of looking for a servant specifically, I went out to fight Errol, who's the big copper mine guy, and so far the biggest complaint I have about V-Rising is that some of these bosses are really deep in these areas, and they also aren't really close to the nearest waypoint, so running back can be more punishing than I think it really needs to be. I'm sure it was intentional to like drive up the stakes of dying, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. This guy wasn't so bad. But later in this run I get extremely frustrated with some of the run backs, especially the one in the iron mine, which we'll see later. Errol has a nice big arena, but there are ads in here. I tried to clear them out beforehand, but it's tough because he does a little loop around the area, and it's really short. So he comes back too soon, but they're just workers, so it's not too bad. Errol does the chaos flame stuff that explodes, and it can start to cover a pretty big area, so staying mobile is important for this fight. That said, he's pretty slow in targeting you, so the attacks are fairly easy to dodge. I got this guy in one attempt, basically without losing any health. I did get whacked a few times by his melee attack because I was trying to get in close enough, but honestly I think I just got a little impatient. If you focus on spell damage and dodging the flames, you could probably win on the first try with no hits, easy. Errol doesn't unlock a ton of stuff, but he does unlock the larger storage chests, which I really needed. And that is the first row of bosses after the White Wolf. My brutal run is off to a really good start. Perhaps too good. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button for next time to see how the rest of this run goes. I'm going to try and keep this in reasonable bite-sized chunks so that we can all enjoy the V Rising run together. Once again, I'm Savalian. I make videos about games, development, and creativity. You can also find me on Twitch. Check out some of my other videos. I'm working on a cute fishing game. There's some dev vlogs for that. And if you like the sort of let's play stuff, I've also got my entire Omori run basically unedited. I clipped out the breaks and stuff from those live streams. Those are all here in a playlist. You can watch them from start to finish and do some crying if you'd like to do that. Either way, I'll be back soon with another video, and I hope to see you there. Bye bye!